Hubby 26M threatens suicide when I 26F talk about divorce. Do I let this make me stay? So I'm definitely experiencing domestic violence, and have been looking into divorce on the sly. He likes to make little remarks about, I couldn't live without you, etc. and, what would be the point? We have 4 children together. Today was a breaking point when I realized I was recording our fight because he denies what he says, yells and how he acts after the fact. He has a job, owns the house. I haven't worked in years and have no hidden savings. Not even exaggerating when saying this, but he's the type to come hurt me and or a new boyfriend if that ever happens. Sorry, going on a tangent here, but just need some advice on how to go forward. I have an APPT with a legal aid December 10th and will probably pretend everything is fine until he gets served, but do I try to get the house? Going to contact the domestic service centers around here. My family lives around my area, but they'll take some time to come around to help. They really like him. I'm super panicky and afraid, but also very excited. Throw away ACCT for obvious reasons. He loves spending hours going through my phone. Please keep me and my kids in your thoughts and prayers. As soon as he threatens suicide, leave the house and call 911 on him. This is a classic manipulation tactic. Don't give in to it. Call his bluff. Dial 911. Tell them your boyfriend is making suicidal remarks and needs help. It's BS. I had this with my husband. Kept threatening to kill himself if we separated. I've been divorced 10 years now. He's still alive. It's emotional blackmail. If he threatens it again, call emergency services. You're being abused and threatening suicide is part of that abuse. It's a manipulation tactic. Please look up resources for victims of domestic victims. You and your kids deserve better. No, don't let someone try to blackmail you to staying with them when they are risking their own life. In the end, it's your life and his life. You have no control over what he does with his life, and he has no control over what you do with your life. 26M boyfriend wants me 25F to be submissive, but doesn't understand what that means. My 25F boyfriend, 26M, and I got into a pretty heated discussion tonight about submissive and dominant relationships. Let me preface by saying that in the beginning of our relationship, I did say, I was a submissive. He told me he was a dominant and that this was the sort of relationship he was looking for. Tonight, we got into a little scuffle over something that I liked. This has happened a lot in our relationship, and it always goes like this. Me. I really like this. Him. That's nice, but I like this more. Me. Oh, well, I don't really like that color. Him. Say you like it. Me. But I don't like it. Him. Just say you like it. It won't hurt. Me. But that's dishonest. I truly don't like it. Him. Just say it. Me. But I really don't like it. And so forth. This usually keeps going until eventually I get so overworked that I either just get up and leave the room, or I start pulling my hair out. Tonight after this happened, I had went and locked myself in our spare bedroom. Immediately we started messaging each other. I started with an apology, addressing how I got overworked and that was my fault and how in the end I should have just listened, I guess, and said I liked it after all. He responded back with how I'm a submissive and how he's a dominant, and ultimately I'm supposed to follow his lead as he makes decisions for the both of us. I told him that I agreed with this standpoint, but there are certain aspects that don't follow this. I.e. when something really bothers me, he's supposed to listen and we're supposed to come to an agreement on things. He disagreed. I told him I'm only human, and that I can't be making ultimatums on things that are hardwired into me, things I truly like and don't like. If it were something along the lines of moving to a new country because he thinks it would be best for us, and explained every reason for doing so, then yes, I'm following his lead. But for something as small as a color I don't like, and making me feel cornered into saying I like it was crazy. It felt like my humanity and individuality was being taken away from me. Was it stupid to not believe that this is what submissive, dominant relationships are supposed to be like? Or is my boyfriend right? Was I supposed to keel over and do everything he tells me to, even if that means losing every part about me? The first rule of BDSM is safe, sane, consensual. Being submissive does not mean that you become a doll with no personality at all, unless you're into that. But if you are, it must be enjoyable for you, and you can withdraw consent at any point you want to. Being submissive also means that you must be very clear about your boundaries, and he has to respect them. He's not a dom. He's just a regular abuser, of the normal type. They are so common that people write books about them. Forget all the sub-dom stuff. Just behave how you want to behave. If he doesn't like it, then this relationship isn't going to work. For the record, he sounds too dumb to be human. What he's doing is manipulative, egotistical, and narcissistic. He doesn't want a girlfriend. He wants an animated sex doll he can put away and stop thinking about when it's not convenient for him. He doesn't want your humanity, your individual character, and your personality, and would preferably have it removed from you. That's unbelievably unhealthy. You need to leave him. Therapy, sis. Post haste. He thinks he's alpha but he's actually a weak insecure mama's boy. Am I, 32F, childish because I called my boyfriend, 36M, when I was walking alone and scared? The other night, my 32F boyfriend, 36M, asked me to come over and watch Christmas movies together. I said sure, and decided to take the train from the suburbs to downtown. The train route takes about 40 minutes and then I had a 20 minutes walk to his condo. He said he was just chilling at home and playing games while he waited for me to come. The train was 30 minutes late, so by the time I get downtown, it's 12:30 a.m. But that gave him an extra 30 minutes to himself to wind down and play video games, read. He asked if I wanted him to come down and meet me along my route, and I said no, that's okay because it was cold and he was already inside winding down. But then, I was in an area where there were homeless people and men around and I felt uneasy. I texted him and said, actually can I call? I feel weird walking alone around guys at this time of night. He said sure, and so I called, and he asked what's happening. I explained that I felt a bit uncomfortable and scared walking around alone at night downtown with homeless people around me who seemed to be out of it, drunk, high, touching themselves. And there's also men around and I just felt like I was a prime target to be approached if I'm walking alone late night by myself. And within 1 minute of the phone call, he flips out saying, and what would calling me do to help that situation? I told you I don't want to have to baby anyone in a relationship and that's so childish. We live in a safe city. I argued, well, I come from the suburbs, so in my mind, downtown is not the safest place because I'm not around people who are drunk or high on the streets, and it doesn't matter, I just don't feel safe, so I just felt better if I had someone on the phone with me keeping track of where I am, and I can describe what's happening to if I need help. And he found that so childish, his words, to expect him to be able to do anything about it if something was happening to me, as if I'm just using it as an excuse to call him and be on the phone with him. And he was annoyed that it was interrupting his relaxation time before I arrive. I feel like it's acceptable to feel scared and call, but also, I think it's not a big deal to ask someone I care about to be on the phone with me for 10 minutes after they had over an hour to themselves to wind down and have alone time, while I spent an hour trekking to them and just wanted 10 minutes of their time. I'm fairly confident that this is a red flag and indicates that this person is not ready to be a husband and that he doesn't want to be responsible for taking care of someone else. That he's not actually concerned about my well-being. Is that a safe assumption, or do men get past a certain age and expect women to be independent and take care of themselves? Do I seem childish for asking someone to be on the phone with me just because of a feeling? Edit. When he offered to come down to meet me, I had said, whatever you prefer, and he said, I'm just in bed reading, with a yawn emoji and sweat on forehead emoji. I felt like that was his way of saying he's comfortable, so I said, then it's okay. If my girl was walking alone at night within 20 minutes from me, I would have ran out the door and met her. If for whatever reason I didn't, and she called me saying she was uncomfortable, I would then run outdoor and meet her. What the fuck is wrong with that dude? Why date someone who doesn't prioritize your comfort and safety? Oh, to have the privilege of walking alone at night. It would be so lovely. It's not something men ever have to think about, let alone worry about. You're not being childish, you're being a woman. I'm glad you're safe, please don't ever do that again. He may not be a bad guy, but he's certainly not trying to understand how to be a good guy. I'm 30 and married, and my husband would never in a million years put me in a position of walking through a city after midnight alone if he was able to physically be there with me, and 2, there have been times where I've been driving late at night alone and he has stayed on the phone for hours with me just to make me feel safe, and so he knows I'm okay. Your boyfriend sounds like a butthole and I definitely see a red flag. I'm sorry, but this sounds like an, if he wanted to he would, situation. No man who cares about you should minimize your feelings of safety and call you childish. I'm so sorry he did that to you. Yeah, no, pretty sure he's the one being childish, throwing the temper tantrum. Location flag, location flag, location flag. Wanting to watch Christmas movies at midnight? Nah, dude wanted to get some and is pissed you were late for his booty delivery. He doesn't and won't care about you. Leave him full score. Location flag, location flag, location flag, location flag. I, 48M, have been a terrible father to my 24M son. Where do I go from here? I had my son with my first wife when we were in our early 20s. We were very unhappily married, she had frequent affairs, we had blazing rows. We were held together by family expectations and religion. My son was, however, very close to his mother. She was diagnosed with cancer when he was 7 and died when he was 10. I was very cold and distant to my son, we constantly clashed, and I realized to my horror in retrospect that I behaved to him as my father did to me. We never spoke about his mother again after the funeral. Since he moved out and went to university, I had therapy and explored a lot of what happened for me, which included dealing with childhood sexual abuse, which really affected all my relationships for my life. As an adult, I have said sorry to my son for being so tough on him, though we still struggle to find any common ground or meaningful connection. I have remarried to my wife, 32, who my son has a much closer relationship with than he does to me, often letting her know when he will come to stay and letting her know how he is. We also have a 2-year-old daughter who my son dotes on. Son used to always stay in university holidays but now lives about an hour away and we see him once a month or so. I happened to be in his city so offered to buy him lunch. I was telling him about things we had done with our daughter, days out, and he gave me a look and said, "Well, you've got the family you always wanted, haven't you?" I asked him what he meant and he said I loved them in a way that I never loved him. He just seemed sad and resigned. I told him I loved him and I was sorry, and he changed the topic. I find this really hard though. He is of course right that when he was a child I was deeply unhappy, and as an adult I struggled to find connection with him, and truth be told he sometimes reminds me of his mother in an unpleasant way. I am much happier now, in general and in my marriage, and feel much more deeply connected to my wife and daughter. However, nothing that happened was his fault. How can I move on from here and make things up to him? You can't make up to him. You made his childhood horrible. What do you expect? Just because you feel sorry now, his hurt is all gone? Offer to pay for therapy for your son to cope with what happened and to deal with the fact that you can now be a great dad to his sibling when you couldn't be for him. That might break the cycle of him being an asshole to his kid in the future. But you have to live with the fact that he's distant. Since no one has said it yet, younger wife that the son constantly communicates with. 2-year-old child that he goes out of his way to see. Keep showing up for him. Acknowledge his feelings, express your love openly, and focus on building small, consistent connections over time. My heart is broken to hear what your son said. You owe him a lifetime of love, attention, support, compassion, communication and respect. I mean, this boy lost his mother at 10. Step up to the plate for God's sakes. It probably sickens him to see you being a doting father to another child. You actually don't deserve him as a son, but unfortunately for him you're all he's got. You can't, he's 24. And you're gross as fuck for dating someone 16 years younger. Focus on him and his needs. Be open and kind and periodically acknowledge that you let him down but that you are genuinely sorry for not being the father he deserved. He has a relationship with your daughter and your wife and isn't blanking you, so build on that and properly recognize that you let him down for years and it may take years to build the relationship you hope for, but it will be worth it. He sounds like an impressive young man.